And we're here with Brother David Worley. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, good, good. Man, I'm so glad to have you with this Chip Chat conversation. And man, you've been at the Springs now, at our campus, how long now?
I've been there over 6 years. Came in when they had a Thanksgiving special, when they were just starting to do the renovation. They're working on renovation of the new church or the current church there. So we've been there quite a while.
I mean, you and Christine have been such a blessing to us. Well, you know, and I know you, but maybe those who watch it may not know you as much. So give a little bit of just your family background and just what you do for a living.
Okay, for 30 years I was a custom home builder. And that changed quickly when the whole industry imploded about 13, 14 years ago. So I went into education. I did 1 year of 8th grade science at a local middle school, and that was a trial by fire, which I did not survive well. So the principal and I both decided I would not come back. So I had the opportunity to start working at Hillsborough Community College up in Ruskin, where it just opened up the South Shore branch, and just had early beginnings there. And I was an adjunct or part-time instructor. And within about a year and a half, I was on staff there. And through the years, through about 12 years there now, I still teach nights, my anatomy classes, because that's my passion. Working students and helping students work through getting into nursing school, getting into medical school. It's just one of my callings, I believe I'm doing. And then my day job, I'm Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs. So,
wow.
So I live down there quite a bit.
From a builder, so from building homes to building education careers, right?
Yes, sir.
That's great, man.
Yes.
Well, you and Christine, have you guys always lived in Tampa? How long y'all been married, kids, or?
Okay, I've lived in Lutz essentially for about 50 years. About a year and a half gone because I got a master's degree back many years ago. But I came from Minnesota, so I know the snow, what it's like. And I really enjoy the cold, so the cold weather comes here, it's great.
Sure.
So, and Christine came from the Bronx, New York, and we've been married nearly 30 years.
Awesome, man.
So we met from church, an accidental meeting, which God ordained. We knew that it was all through him.
Yeah.
She went back to her career up in Manhattan. I stayed here, and I kind of coaxed her down with writings and chocolate chip cookies and things like that.
Come on, man.
Brought her, came back, and it's blossomed since that point. So, again, we've lived in the Lutz area together for roughly 28, 29 years.
Well, man, one of the things, even before we get even deeper into the COVID talk, is I've loved from the day I met you guys, this PCAT ministry that you do. You were doing it in the Springs before the county, no longer funded the program there and didn't want it anymore. But you're still doing it in Waimama. Can you share just a little bit about PCAT and what you guys do?
Sure. We realized back in almost 2000, 2001, that the church we were going to was ministering somewhat to the kids of the inner city of especially Sulphur Springs, but then realized that was not enough. So she got with the help of the children's board and with some other help from people saying this is a ministry you need to do. She started in Sulphur Springs, and for 15, 16 years she ministered after school to kids at risk of not passing because of their inability to read. So for after school programs of one-on-one tutoring, up to 80 kids a day sometimes, she'd have kids right from elementary school, Sulphur Springs Elementary School, come right over to a house, and she did the program. Man, and then she moved that program down to Ruskin, and she's been there, I think, 4 or 5 years now. So it's very similar there, different circumstances, but overall the same thing, the kids' inability to read because of different factors. Sure. And if they don't read by the time they're 2, they're really going to be struggling to proceed or move ahead at all.
Man, so grateful for that ministry. And tell me what PCAT stands for again?
PCAT is Parents and Children Advancing Together.
I love it. And so listen, if you're watching this, and I assume you guys are on Facebook or on the internet?
She's on Facebook, yes.
Okay, so look up PCAT. It's a great ministry. Even if all you can do is pray for them, or maybe if you want to donate, please do that. It's a great ministry that they're doing. Well, man, tell me, what has it been like at teaching in school? One of the reasons why we have these COVID conversations is that, we're all in different spheres of life and battling this pandemic. For you, I'm sure at some point you've had the option whether to teach at home or teach in person. What's that been like in your sphere and the path you're in?
Well, HEC had been growing very strongly up until about March of last year. And most of our courses were face-to-face, many online, but most face-to-face. But when we came back from spring break, we really didn't come back. We got that extra week off in last year, And during that week, we were supposed to, if you had a face-to-face or on-ground class, you were supposed to get ready to do it virtually. So I had 4 classes at that time, the night classes, and I had to quickly move to Zoom teaching, which wasn't too bad, but I still had the students. I didn't lose students, but it was a very quick turnaround at that point. We've lost many students because of this, and it's tough for many students to do online courses when they're not set up for it.
Sure.
So I got back to my campus early April and May, and have been working on campus doing things, but back to regular teaching, as regular as it could be, in August of this past. Wow. And that was mask-to-mask teaching, so social distance. And
what's that adjustment been like now with the new with the COVID safety guidelines? Because there was a time you were meeting in March. It's one thing to shut down, and then we're thinking, well, we'll do this for a few months and get back. Now you get back, and now you have all the guidelines and masking and social distance. What has that been? How's that impacted your world?
Okay, so we had roughly 10,000 students at our campus at South Shore and Ruskin.
Yeah.
Many of those online, but registered students. Once we came back, we had to get social distance all summer, had to put signage up, had to mark down everything on campus to make sure we had the social distancing, had to redevelop, and one of the things I help with is doing classes, organizing classes for the next semester or two. Organizing and find out what students, what teachers, what instructors can come back or want to come back. Wow. So in August, I had decided I can't teach anatomy without being somewhat face-to-face.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do anatomy.
It is hard to
Everybody get your hearts out now.
Yeah, right, dissect this, and no, it's virtual, so I'm sorry.
Wow.
So, but it's been very good to teach that way, in that I can still work with the students, I can still have a good rapport with the students.
So
and
the students, are they enjoying being somewhat in person, even with all the guidelines? It's still, they'd rather be in person, they could see you, especially with a course like anatomy.
In my class and in many of the science classes where you have labs and so forth, it's really difficult, in my opinion, to be able to understand without having some real physical thing in front of you.
Yeah.
So, but in my class, I've got 16 students. We're all social distance. We all wear masks.
Sure.
And it's been a struggle to try to teach a large lab classroom and virtually yelling at students and trying to hear them say anything back has been difficult. But working it through.
It's amazing here, and there's been so many stories recently on just when people and doing Zoom calls and between having kids running, like what's happened to me plenty of times in my meetings, or if people have filters and all that and trying to. Sure. So I can only imagine. It's good that as you can meet safely in person, you can, and then when you can't, you do the Zoom. Quick question I got to ask you though: when you do have your Zoom meetings,
yes,
you rather have the camera on or camera off?
They want it on for me, and I'd rather have them see me as a real person, because they don't know who I look like until I have the mask off.
Yeah.
One of the questions I asked being in class, how long has it been since I shaved my mustache? Because I do these questions about them, and then I ask them, you have no clue if I have a mustache, do you?
Wow.
Behind this mask, but I do.
Wow.
So I ask these questions so they can figure out who I am.
Yeah.
So I like to do that. But it's nice to see what the people look like without the mask, and I'd say, no, that's not you. I say, yes, it is. I said, yeah, I see your name under, it's got to be you. But it's difficult to try to be personal.
Well, tell me this, you're not just any professor. You've been a believer, you're walking with the Lord, a Christ follower, and so one thing that we know as people of faith, we bring our faith everywhere, and it has infused and influenced everything we do. So what has that been like? That as a teacher, where has your faith intersected in the midst of this COVID era? Where have you seen your faith impact and influence what you do on a day-to-day?
Okay, students know that I'm a Christian because of how I act and how I bring up examples and so forth. So they know I'm available to talk to them, especially if it has to do with faith issues. Yeah. So, but it's been a challenge, trying to interact as much with students and getting them to understand and know that God's got the answers to what's going on. Wow. So I can do that with some students when I realize, that I do a lot of texting with my students and try to encourage them and uplift them through situations, and always with God's got this under control. Sure. This is the journey God's got for you. So, and different
that's
things
great.
like that. So many of them don't realize until after I do that. So thank you for expressing your faith and doing, what you do. So.
Man, and I tell you, that's pretty consistent. Even when with PCAT, I know if there were families that you guys were engaged with in the Sulphur Springs community, you're always inviting them to church and always trying to keep them engaged. So, man, that is wonderful. Well, man, when it comes to a lot of times like this, it's stressful. It's a lot going on. A lot of people are going through a lot with COVID and all the things required. People have had suffered loss, some with the disease, some with just the separation has been challenging. But as a man of faith, are there moments throughout this COVID process where you see a sense of hope and encouragement?
I see a lot of hope and encouragement. I see us moving, both as a country and as a school and so forth, moving in the right direction. It's tough to be patient.
Yeah, it is.
God calls you to be patient because
just watch me with my kids.
Yeah, I know. He's got the plan.
Amen.
So you've got to figure out, okay, how do I move through this with a positive attitude, knowing God, in the end, God's got the plan for all this.
What would you say to somebody if somebody said, well, David, tell me, what's an opportunity? How can I still be effective for the gospel? How can I still be effective for the Lord, even with all these restrictions and things going on with COVID? What would you say to that?
I think you should just be consistent with what you're doing and be a positive light to people. There are many people, like you said, are struggling with this, with loss and with job loss and with education loss, a lot of these things. But as a person who believes, I believe I should just be consistent, know that I am stable there. And if they have problems or whatever, I've been there. I've had my same cell phone number for about 20 years.
Wow.
And I still have kids I worked with in the past that once in a while I get texts, you remember me? And I said, yeah, I remember you.
Wow.
But being consistent and knowing that they know my faith is strong. Sometimes it wavers, but who doesn't? But it's part of life. You just want to be there for people that need it.
Dude, I love it. Well, man, I'll let you go on this one, man. This will be my last question for you. Being a man of faith, and you are an educator. One of the questions I've been asking everybody as they come through with this conversation is just any parting words of wisdom that you have for our audience, and especially with what you do in education and how critical and how crucial of an area that is right now. Is there anything just from your own perspective and knowledge that you want to share?
Well, I see people trying to get back to norm, and just try to be safe out there with listen to what you should be doing out there, and just be safe. Don't get yourself in risky or endangered positions with the COVID, but you can lead a fairly normal existence right now. But God calls us to be just followers of what He tells us to do. Yeah. And just be strong in what you believe, and just be careful with how your behavior exists.
Amen, man. Well, man, I definitely enjoyed it. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Continue to pray for you and all those who are at HCC and really and all over. If you're an educator or teacher at any level, we pray that God just continues to use you in a mighty, mighty way. If you're a parent and you are navigating this space with young kids, praying for you as well. And if you're a college student going through that, praying for you as well. Once again, continue to look up what David and Christine are doing. Of course, David would love for you to consider HCC. I mean, since you're here, you're an employee.
Of course.
I know you represent hcc.edu, I'm guessing?
Yeah, hccfl.edu.
hccfl.edu, but also definitely PCAT Ministry. Look them up on Facebook. And just a great ministry that we've been the blessing of benefiting from in some ways, that people we've met at our church, because David and Christine, and I've actually been in that house. I remember y'all had that house in the Springs, and so we encourage you to look that up. But thank you for watching, and David, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Amen. God bless.